Cedric Golden, Austin American-Statesman. We had Bobby Taylor on Cedric earlier, and I've known him since, the late 80s when he was a great player at Longview, and then, of course, I've known you since you were 5. Great to see you. So I saw this quote you had on a show that you don't think many fans around the SEC are cheering on Texas to win in the college football playoff. That's a conference that usually likes to promote how good they are in certain ways, but you still think they're kind of the black sheep?
Of course, David. They just got here, and who pulls against the new guy that just comes in and gets to the championship game? I know the Aggies ain't pulling for him, Smokey. The Texas Longhorns did in 12 games what the Aggies couldn't do in 13 years. So they'll chant SEC if Texas wins, but if Texas gets run by Ohio State, the other teams will not be shedding any tears.
Cedric, this is a team that, there were a lot of people, I guess, surprised that they didn't blow Arizona State out or that it came down to the end. But it looked to me in that game that that's just who they are. Like, it may not be spectacular, but they're just good. They're just really good, and they are deep enough and experienced enough to when it matters at the end, they can close it out, unless they're playing a team from Georgia.
Exactly. And the thing is, Paul, they can get away with that against Clemson. They can get away with that against A&M. I don't think they can get away with that against Ohio State. You can't go to sleep in the second and third quarter and try to steal it in overtime against Ohio State. If that happens, you might be down by 21 points. So the defense has to play better. They gave up 23 unanswered points to Arizona State. Now, that does count the opening 7 points of overtime, but still, they gave up. That's the most they've given up since Georgia beat them in Austin. They were up 23-0 at the half. So what they're going to have to do is start fast and finish drives, and most importantly, they've got to limit the big plays. How about this stat, guys? In the last 2 playoff games, Texas has given up 5 passes of 25-plus yards in the fourth quarter of those games. In the last 2 games, they've given up 12 passes of 20-plus yards, and in the previous 5 games, they gave up 12. So, yeah, they've got leakage, and they've got to fix that.
Cedric, I know that you're probably aware of Arizona State, maybe even watched them a couple times prior to that game, but with whatever knowledge you rolled into that one with, what did you feel like walking out about Kenny Dillingham, Cam Scatterbo, and just that Arizona State program?
Craig, I'm going to tell you, the Big 12 better beware. I mean, if they, Scatterbo's going to go pro, but those guys play hard. And that quarterback's a freshman. Sam Levitt is a freshman. And so he's going to get recruits there. They're going to want to live in that area. It's a nice area of the country. And they're in play in the Big 12. And they're going to play their games in the South. That's all good recruiting tools for Dillingham. And he does not coach scared. I loved how he approached that game. He didn't make excuses for Scatterbo saying he was the best running back in the country. He backed him up. He didn't make excuses for Sam Levitt when he said he was going to be the best quarterback on the field against Texas, and Sam Levitt represented. So that's a program on the rise. And Texas is very fortunate that Quinn Ewers has that clutch gene, or else you're probably not even talking to me today.
No, you're probably right, unless we're talking about, oh, my God, what happened and what's next. And I wanted to bring that up because Quinn Ewers may not be the most popular quarterback on the roster because of what people think of Arch and what they've seen a glimpse of him and just the story. Did this set him up for a legacy if they can win? They got 2. My goodness, they still have to beat all. But did that game and that moment set him up for a bigger legacy than he had in the first place?
I think so. Major Applewhite never won the Big 12. Chris Sims never won the Big 12. And he won the Big 12 and got to a championship game back-to-back 12-win seasons. He's got 27 wins as a starter. And if they win 2 more, he's going to go down as the 3rd winningest quarterback in Texas history and only the 5th one to win a championship. So like him or not, he's not the biggest quote machine. He may not throw the best deep ball. I think Arch Manning throws a better deep ball. But Quinn Ewers is a boss. And those guys believe in Quinn Ewers. And when the quarterback has the belief of a locker room and a head coaching staff, then they're going to be in games. And Steve Sarkisian came out last week and said, "Oh yeah, we're a massive underdog and people aren't giving us a chance." You're a 7-point underdog. Steve Sarkisian believes Texas is going to win this game. I know him. He believes they're going to win this game.
I think that sometimes they're the most dangerous, even though they are Texas and a lot of times favored. They have had that drought. But I think that they're for whatever reason, a program, if you look at their history, when they're not a favorite, like USC, many times other teams, they seem like that's when they might play even loose and free.
Absolutely. And think about last year, Smokey. They went into Alabama and scored 21 points in the 4th quarter at Bryant-Denny Stadium. No one does that. And Tide was 52-1 at home in their last 53 going into that. And Quinn Ewers threw 3 touchdown passes in the 4th quarter in a raucous atmosphere in the SEC's one of the most hallowed palaces in the conference. And that was his debut, and he's been good ever since. I really think the fearlessness of Quinn Ewers is going to play to his favor, and this defense, much maligned lately, they have gotten the message. They got to play better, Smoke. If the defense plays like they played the first 10 games, this is a 4th quarter game, and Texas will have a really good chance to win.
Cedric, I'm going to ask you your theory on where Quinn Ewers is playing next year. Is it the NFL? It doesn't feel like it'll be Austin, Texas, or is it another college team?
I heard that Smoke was going to give him like $8 million to move to Waco. I mean, that's what I heard. And I'm like, this $8 million? Smoke's got way more money than $8 million. Make it 10, no. Smoke. Don't be cheap. Yeah. This is no time to be cheap. So Dave Aranda could use him for sure. I think he's going to go pro. Now, if it's me, and it's true that there's some $6 million offers on the table to be the guaranteed starter, and to be in college for another year, work towards your master's, it'd be hard for me to turn that down. $6 million is $6 million. I think he's going to go in the 2nd round of the draft, and there ain't going to be no $6 million paycheck there.
By the way, my money is going to pay Sawyer Robertson to come back and have another year or 2 for Baylor. They're just fine.
He's great.
Cedric Golden, Austin American-Statesman, with us on 365 Sports. Craig?
Said we got to see Trey Wisner, here at Connolly, and really enjoyed covering him. He was amazing then. You could see all of the potential oozing out of him. I know the running game was tough sledding this past week, but your thoughts on just his emergence, how he's come out of his shell a little bit there in Austin, and just the running game that Texas has right now. Your thoughts heading into this game against the Buckeyes?
Greg, I love him. Because the one thing about Quintravian, and they call him Trey, but his mama told us we got to call him Quintravian, and I'm not going against any black mother says Quintravian. His mama called him Clay. I'm gonna call him Clay. So Quintravian Wisner is a leaning forward, run finishing power back who's got a little bit of speed on top of that, and he catch the ball. He was running 4th string before the season. And they lost C.J. Baxter and freshman Christian Clark to ACL injuries. That moved him up the pecking order. And then he beat out Jadon Blue, who had some fumble problems. If they can get him established, that's where everything else falls into place, because he is one of those guys that the first guy is not going to bring him down. The first guy's not going to get him. He's one of those guys who's always finishing runs. He's the barometer of this offense. It's not Quinn Ewers. It's Quintravian Wisner. He's the barometer. If he's rolling early, the Texas Longhorns are going to be in really good shape.
Yeah, and they could not run the ball against Arizona State after they shredded Clemson. We saw him, as Craig said, as a sophomore. He was a spindly, fast-as-hell kid that when he got any kind of opening, it was like going through a bullet hole. But he wasn't very physical. He was young. He hadn't really done – and then he's just turned into a grown-ass man.
and every team needs a guy like that. He's the guy that when Texas is playing on all cylinders, when that offense is rolling and they get up in the fourth quarter and there's 5 or 6 minutes left, they give it to him. It's ground chuck, and he runs the clock out. They weren't able to do that against Arizona State. They tried, and they just decided we just got to pass the ball. We can't run it on them. And that's what allowed Arizona State to get back in the game. I think Ohio State's got a better defense than Arizona State, and it's going to be interesting to see how much Steve Sarkisian leans on that run early, or if he just abandons it and says, all right, let's see if you can cover the talented wide receivers. Let's see if we can cover Gunnerham over the middle. I don't think they want to get in a shootout, even though Will Howard, I mean, they just need to turn him into K-State Will Howard. I mean, I don't know who that guy is. They were 3-0 against the Will Howard I remember. He's dealing right now. I mean, and in my last column, I used a basketball analogy. They're making all the threes, and Will Howard is Steph Curry, and so they need to get somebody on Will because he's on a heater.
Yeah. Somebody told Will Howard and Ryan Day that Emeka Ibuka and Jeremiah Smith exist. Like, hey, it's,
just throw it near them.
Yeah, get it close.
Well, Paul, the best idea I've come up with, and I know Texas is not going to do it, but you know, since we're on 365 Sports in front of about 6 million viewers on YouTube, I need to get paid. This is what they should do, guys. They should show up at Jerry World in maize and blue. That will destroy Ryan. He will faint at midfield before the coin toss, and Texas will win by 4 touchdowns. That's what they need to do. Don't worry about blowout money, Del Conte. That money will be there for the championship game. Imagine how many maize and blue Longhorn jerseys they could sell if they beat Ohio State.
Hey, Michigan will send you the jerseys tomorrow.
Yeah.
They will make sure. They don't want Ohio State to have any joy.
Hey, Cedric, I didn't want to ask you.
Yes, Craig.
Yeah, no, I know it's been a few days, but you've got to experience that first playoff game there in Austin, and I was just wondering what that was like. You've covered so many games there, but was there something a little different to that one with Clemson in town and just the stakes being what they were?
Bro, there was so much buzz in the air. I mean, more buzz than usual, and it's Austin, so you know there's lots of buzz going on. If you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there was more buzz than usual, and they got there pretty early, and they were ready to roll. I think the first 2 rounds need to be on college campuses because I'm telling you, at Atlanta in the Peach Bowl, there were 5,000 or 6,000 empty seats, but at the SEC championship game, there were no empty seats. I think if they made the first 2 rounds home games and expanded the bracket to 14 teams and did like the NFL and give 2 teams buys, I think they would have record attendance numbers in the second round. I think that's the next step.
Would you be able to? I guess not. If you had the first 2 rounds at home sites, those who had home sites in round 1 would not get a home site back to back because that would be the one thing you'd try to avoid, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you know what? If you're a top 4 seed, well, of course, the number 1 seed would get 1 home game because they're going to get a bye. And maybe the others get home game, but I'm telling you the attendance wasn't as great. Y'all saw those empty seats on some of those games.
Yeah.
Now, the Rose Bowl was packed because it's Oregon and USC. That was a natural. But for teams that have to travel, I just don't think that it's as feasible, and I don't think they're maximizing the gate by having teams leave. Like Texas is going to play in Atlanta 3 times. I wish they get rid of the conference title games, but Mickey Mouse not gonna let them do that, making too much money. Too much money.
And if a fan base like Texas, as large as it is, or Ohio State, or Penn State, if they struggle with ticket prices as big as they are and how much money they have, because they always tell you how much they have, that is an issue.
It is. Because you got to remember, you've got Christmas shopping, and then holiday travel mixed in, and then most of these diehard fans have gone to all the home games. And for the good seats, you have to donate to the Longhorn Foundation. There's no telling how much they're getting for that. So this is not about rich people. This is not about people like David Smoke. This is about people like me and Paul Catalina who actually work for a living and are living check to check. So for those people, I talked to some at the airport, man, they were struggling. And I asked one lady, I go, if they beat Ohio State, are you going to be back in Atlanta? She goes, I don't have a choice. I love them. And she goes, I'm just going to have to move some money around. And I'm sitting there going,
Man.
you have to get a second job, lady. That's
brutal,
man. It's brutal. And, you know, I love her passion and her love and her loyalty for the program. But when it starts to hit you in the back pocket, you got to come up with something else. And I think giving them a couple of home games, I think might be the answer. And getting rid of those conference championship games. That's a trip to Atlanta that they wouldn't have had to take.
Yeah, but that's going to give them, you would think, a comfortable feeling of going back to Atlanta again, because they've already been there twice. Last week against Arizona State, also, even though they lost the game to Georgia. Were you at the Super Bowl when they tried to host it at AT&T Stadium and they had the ice storm?
That was Green Bay, Pittsburgh. That's the last one I covered, I think. Yeah, I was at that one. I was invited to Serena Williams' party, and I looked outside, and I saw that ice, and I was like, man, we don't have any skis. I can't get over there. And you know what? I could have hung out with Serena. I mean,
no. Yeah, and it's supposed to be kind of nasty mixed with maybe snow and ice and sleet. So get up there early. I know they'll have press day and all that stuff, so be careful when you're up there, my man.
Yeah, I'm going. I'm headed up there Wednesday. They got a evening media availability, and then Thursday is the coaches, and then Friday's the big game. So yeah, I'm going to get up there a day early and hole up. I mean, I'm not going anywhere. I mean, I don't do smoke, and I definitely don't do ice. If there's not a glass of tea involved, I'm not doing ice.
I knew Paul likes to do stand-up comedy, but I think he's got a partner now with you, Cedric, with all the one-liners from today. Hey, man, love you. Appreciate your time. Thanks for your time, and enjoy the week of covering the game.
Love you guys, too. Take care.
Yeah, Cedric Golden, Austin American-Statesman, with us on 365 Sports.